Hello and welcome. We're very excited that we're here today, together me and Manuela, and we're going to talk about a topic that is within our great interest, and it's women in business. Before we start talking about the opportunities and the challenges that women face in business, we would like to discuss with you how you see Netherlands' position in the challenges that we face globally. Where do you see us standing comparing to the other countries around the globe?
Yes. So, I don't know, have any of you seen the recent report that was sent out by the World Economic Forum? It just came out early November. Any hands up if anybody's read it already and is miles ahead of our information here? Not yet, no. So, they've started doing this report in 2006. And in 2006, they measured 115 countries on the gender gap. And the four main criteria they are measuring, you can see here, is economic participation and opportunity, educational attainment, health and survival, and political empowerment. So I want you to shout out for a minute. So 2006, there were 115 countries. Where do you think the Netherlands was? And just shout it out. Which position? Fifth? 25? Pretty low, 25? Something like that? No, 115 back then. Yes. So 25, fairly low, right? Yes, they were doing well. 2006, they were doing really, really well. They were at position 12. So great news for the Netherlands. Now, they've just released it again, like we said. And in 2017, they've interviewed 144 this time. Where do you think we are? Shout it out again. Third place? Lower? Lower than before? Anybody else wants to hazard a guess? 20? Yes, we actually have gone down. We have gone down. We are now at position 32, down from position 16 last year. So it's a bit surprising because with all the hype in the media and all the talk about women empowerment and women in business, that how is it possible that this trend is going backwards? So let's have a closer look. So, here, as you can see, on education to start with, and on health, there's no gender gap at all in the Netherlands. Women and men are performing, are having the same expectations. But where the gap is here. Economically, and on the political scale. So let's have an even closer look at that. So if you look at politics, we're doing actually quite well when it comes to women in parliament. We're ranked at 26, because we've got 36% are women. Women in ministerial positions, again, 37.5, but we've never had a head of state. And yet, besides that, we're still doing fairly well in comparison with others. We're at ranking 25. So where are we doing so badly is up here at work. We're ranked 82 there. And whilst we're still labor force participation, where men are slightly higher, but it's fairly equal. What's the biggest issue is this one here, estimated earned income, where we're at 115. So have a look at this. On average, women earn 33,000 a year, and men earn 68. And that's 2017, ladies and gentlemen. It's not long time ago. So this has got to change, and this is why we're here today. We are part of Open the Door, a leadership and coaching company, which is in support of women in business, because we want to see more of us in higher ranks, and we want to support you all, and this is why we're here today, to share our message. Why do we do this? Because it makes sense. It makes business sense. So if you look at that, they have done several studies. This is an article from the Financial Times. Companies with more women on their boards have delivered 36% more on return on investment, return on capital invested. So it makes business sense. But more importantly for us even, is it's the right thing to do. If we invest in women, it's been proven that It helps speed up development, it helps overcome poverty, it reduces inequalities, and improves children's nutrition, health, and school attendance. And women typically invest a higher proportion of what we earn back into the people we care about. So it's the right thing for us to do. So, who are we? Huh? So who are we? What are these people? Why should you listen to us? My name is Manuela Damant. I'm originally from Switzerland. I worked for Shell for over 10 years before in risk management. So I've been in organizations, I've been in business, I've been one of these women who have been climbing the career ladder. I've also lived in Australia. I'm now here in Delft. I'm a mum of 3, and I'm a trained NLP expert and coach, and I'm passionate about women in leadership. And this is Vassia.
Well, I started my career as a career consultant, working in the largest career consultancy center in Athens back in 2005. And then in 2013, I moved here to the Netherlands. I continue my master here in Leiden University, and I keep working together with Manuela in women's coaching and empowering women in business. In 2013, I founded the Anti-Loneliness, which is a company who helps people embrace loneliness and defeat loneliness, especially experts, but at the same time, loneliness in the workplace. So that's for me, and we go now to the agenda for today. First, Manuela is going to talk to you about the opportunities that women have in the workplace. And it's not only gloomy and dark and negative. Of course we have opportunities that we didn't have in the past. At the same time, we face challenges that we didn't have before, and even challenges that we're not aware of that they are challenges. And then we will have, of course, some room for questions and discussion.
Good. Great. Yeah, so we've switched around the order a little bit because we felt like usually when you go to these women in business events, it's all about the toughness and the difficulties and how hard it is for us. We wanted to start in a different place because, yes, as that is true, like Vassia said, there's also amazing stuff happening on our behalf and for everybody, actually. Even the men included here will benefit from these changes. So this is going to be very interesting. So, the opportunities. Opportunity number 1 we see is the war, what they call the war on talent early on in the new century. They're now saying the war on talent is over, but talent has to be won. So companies these days need you. Whereas previously they could pick and choose out of 100 candidates, they could go and choose the best ones, and you basically had to tick every single box in the requirement list plus 5 more. These days they need you. Many industries need as many candidates, as many workers as they can get. So you can now apply, and I would like to encourage you anyway, because usually the women's tendency is to only apply if we tick all the boxes. No, forget about that. If you like the job and you think you have something to offer and you feel passionate about it, apply for it. Because HR can no longer disregard you just because you haven't got 150% of what they need. So go for it. Any kind of job that you really want, go for it and tell them why they should have you. The next opportunity is that balance equals profit. So like we said before, having a gender diverse board is actually business savvy. It actually increases the turnover. It actually increases the interest earned for investors. So again, I'm quoting the same Financial Times article, but what I left out before was that equality campaigners now say, like, these findings will actually put pressure on investors to make sure that this is happening. That this is actually not just a nice to have, but it's happening. Now, what they're saying is companies with more women on the boards, I need to quickly clarify that a little bit. Women on boards is not just one, because a lot of the boards have a token woman that sits on there and makes it look like it's gender equal. That's not the point. It has to be at least 3, or the CEO is a woman plus 1. So it's not just the one, we look at it and think like, oh, it's gender equal, there's 1 on board. No. It has to be 3, or the CEO is a woman plus 1, at least 1 more. The next wonderful opportunity is that leadership is being redefined as we are right now. And this is really interesting for you guys as well, because I think men had enough of the old leadership style as well. So this heroic leader that we saw in the past, the one person at the top leading the masses to a new kind of result, it's no longer working. You can be as talented, as able as you can be, just you by yourself. It's just no longer enough to meet those complex challenges we have in this day and age. So there is a move towards collective and collaborative leadership, where we bring more people together to lead together. And continued on this redefining leadership, there's also a complete change on this organizational style that was sort of like previously more hierarchical, because the new generation, all of you probably in here, no longer want to follow to the guy or the lady on top just because they have the job title. You've now grown up to believe that you're part of this. You want to contribute. You want to be involved. So anybody who tells you what to do just because they have the necessary job title, you will no longer follow. So leadership has to change because of that. So we have to become more collaborative, we have to communicate, we have to find win-wins, we have to work together. So this is all stuff that stereotypically women are good at. So this is a great, great trend for us to do. So what does that mean? So we're moving from competing with the outside world to collaborating. And I love this new word that I recently came across, collapeating, so collaborating and competing at the same time. So where we work together and we do more of these kind of things. We move away from fighting, fleeing, freezing, and appeasing, which is we always felt like, you know, Darwin's evolution theory, the survival of the fittest. A lot of times that we lived that in business. We competed with each other. We tried to fight against each other. And that was the only way that we thought was possible. But funnily enough, of course, nature always had another way, but it's only been in 2000 that a woman came up with this fifth solution, which is tending and befriending. And of course, it's always been there. It's what elephants do, that's what so many species in nature do, and women have done over the past. Because we were weak, we had to tend and befriend each other in order to survive. So it's not our only option. So that's changing. From power over, I've touched on this before, we're coming to power with. And yeah, so that's the whole change of face of leadership, which we're very, very excited about. Now, the next opportunity is we are the next emerging market. Who would have thought that? So everybody talks about China and India being the next emerging market. Actually, if you take all our possible spending and our possible influence in business as consumer, as employers, as company owners, we are the next emerging market. And we're going to have a huge impact. So companies out there will have to pay attention what women want, because we'll be the ones who will be buying. We'll be the ones who have the businesses. We'll be the ones together with the men that can create something. So we are the next emerging market. And related to this, in 2028, Ernst & Young predicts that women will control close to 70% of discretionary spending worldwide. So we will be in charge of how money gets spent and what we spend it for. Because we will earn about a third of the businesses. Which brings me to the last opportunity and the last trend that I'm very, very excited about. So imagine one day we're going to own the majority of where money is spent. We can influence money with positivity. Because sometimes these days money is a dirty word. We see it as something negative, but money itself is not negative. Money itself can be like water. You give it to a plant to let it grow. So if you use money in a way that is in line with your value, you can choose to buy the eco-friendly dishwasher tablets, just to have an example. You can choose to shift your money from a bank that is currently investing in the weapon industry to a bank who does no longer do that. You can choose to buy clothes from a manufacturer where they don't have child work. So can you see how influential we can be if we start using money and giving it into the right kind of sources? So these are, as you can see, I'm very excited about this. I think we have lots of wonderful, wonderful things going in our favor that will help us going forward. But of course, with all opportunities, there's also challenges. And this is what Vassia is going to talk about.
So I remember when I was about to do to choose my next academic path back in my high school. So I was discussing it together with my mom, and I had pretty good grades in all courses. So I was like, shall I go to something practical, something theoretical? I don't know. I want to be a scientist. I want to do something. I want to be in an environment where I change things, where I do research. So she was like, are you sure? Is it better if you play it safe, do something more traditional, maybe like a teacher or something like that? And then an abstract, vague question was formed in my mind, like, are we supposed to do things that they're not traditional? Are we supposed to be leaders? So I just Googled it. Are we supposed to be leaders? Are women supposed to be leaders? And this is some of the Google shares that I got in November 2017. Who makes a better leader, a man or a woman? 4 reasons why women should not and cannot lead. This is the first page of Google. Why is it so hard for a woman to become the president of the US? So I got all these, and I assume that this self-doubt is a seed that is planted very early in women's mind. We think that maybe this is what we're meant for. Maybe we shouldn't go there. It's not very attractive. It's not us, or maybe we're not good at it. So we're questioning ourselves all the time. And of course, we got influence from our family, from our culture, our religion, our university, our school, even our managers. And as we discussed earlier with Manuela, of course there are women in all hierarchy scales in the business world, but what is observed is an early drop in ambition. It's not that women stop working when they are about to get a next promotion. They continue working, but they no longer pursue another position, a higher position. So, if I say, imagine a doctor, if I say, imagine a manager or an engineer, what is the first image that comes to your head? A male or a female? Excuse me? Yeah. But sometimes, yeah? It depends on the culture? Yeah, of course. Yeah. And of course, yeah, indeed. It depends, of course, in the culture, in the country you're living, or the environment that you're growing in. But what is also noticed is that there is this unconscious bias. Most of the times, when we say engineer, we think of a man. Like he is the one that he should be doing this job. And it's automatic. And it reflects all the associations that we get from the culture we grow in. And even there was an experiment in a supposedly objective environment, academic environment, where they were looking for a manager. And the HR department was presented with identical CVs, but they changed the names without the HR knowing that they changed the names. So the same CV that had the name Jennifer got offered less money than the same CV that got the name John. So you can see that the name plays a role, and the gender plays a role in how much money you will be offered. When professional women, they become mothers, somehow they are perceived as less competent, while this is not the case for men that they become fathers. They continue being competent and very ambitious. So, HR departments, when they're looking for a leader, for somebody that will take a leadership position, they're looking for self-confidence. They're not looking so much for self-awareness, which is sometimes more of a women's trait. They're looking for quick results. And they're not looking for somebody who can embrace minority views and opinions. They prefer, for teaching positions, they prefer women because managers find it easier to put some more pressure on women because they know that they will comply, and not to men because they know that they will change the rules and they will resist the pressure. So, what women do is not considered traditional leadership, but it is leadership. So, as we climb up the corporate ladder, we see that women vanish. As you see at the bottom on the new hires, you can see almost 53% of women. And this number gets less and less. And when we go to the level of CEO, you can see only 3% of women there. And this is a percentage that changes from country to country, but in total, it's a pattern. Maybe the numbers slightly change, but this is a pattern that you can see in every country. Next one. So, we wanted to see what's the difference. And there was a study conducted by Zenger-Folkman, and it was published at Harvard Business Review. Are we more effective? Is it different? What is the difference, actually? So they measured the overall leadership effectiveness in men and women, and they found out that women have slightly more effective leadership style. What makes a difference, actually? This is what raises many questions. Is it the effort? There was a woman, and she said, in order to get the same recognition and the same rewards, I need to do twice as much, never make a mistake, and always demonstrate my competence. Which means I need to struggle twice to be perceived half as good. So they're trying more. Women are putting much more effort to get the same results as men. Also age. It is observed during this study that men and women, they have the same effectiveness in leadership until the age of 40. After this age, men, they're more stable in their effectiveness and in their growth, while women, they continue growing. And why is that? Because women continue to ask for feedback. This is a habit they have. They continue thinking that I can become better. While men, they stop asking for feedback because they think, okay, I'm fine. I've done what I was supposed to do, I'm good who I am, and people like me how I am, and I'm fine. I don't need to try more. While women continue trying and asking for feedback, and they're not afraid to ask. Another thing that makes a difference, and this was a list from the study, what are the leadership competencies? You can see the green boxes are the competencies that female have higher scores than male leaders. So you can see that they take initiative, they display high integrity, they drive for results, they develop themselves, they develop others, they inspire, they motivate, they build relationships. And the two black boxes are where men have higher scores than women. So, it's only two, but these two can actually make the difference. First of all, it's a technical and professional expertise, and secondly, strategic perspective. Aha, what's this? Susan Colantuo, CEO of Leading Women. She was the first one that she was talking about the missing 33%. She was interviewing a lot of women in leadership position, and she was talking to a lady called Tonya, and she was the vice president of a big company. So this woman, Tonya, she said, I've worked really hard to improve my skills. I've taken every management course that there is out there. My 360 evaluations were terrific. My team loves working with me. And still, I get passed over twice for advancement opportunities, even though my manager knew that I really wanted that and I was heading there. Why? Why is this happening? Why am I missing something? And I don't understand why. So what Tonya is not understanding is that she is missing this 33%. Much of the advice that we get for advancement is these two small boxes that you see, the purple and the turquoise on the left side. So the purple is how to improve yourself and how to become more assertive and how to set some goals and to work on your personal brand, while the turquoise box is about how to bring others along, to promote yourself, to negotiate, to learn communication skills, to get a mentor and network. So we get a lot of advice about these two boxes. But this is not enough, because there's another box, the missing 33%, which nobody's talking about. And why is that? If you ask all the managers, they will say, yeah, that's given. You're supposed to know that. How come you didn't know? How come you haven't heard about that? This green... Yeah. You have any idea? Well, this green box is rated twice as heavily as the other two boxes. So you can understand the significance of this box. And this box is what we call the financial, the business, and strategic acumen. It's all the information we need to know in order to build the strategy of the company that we're working in. Who knows about where the organization is going? Who knows about the finances of the organization? Who knows the story behind the finances of the organization? Who knows what risk and opportunities are there for the organization? Exactly. It's the big picture that we're missing because we're doing the everyday, let's say, tasks that we're supposed to do, but it's not that we're missing the skills in order to build on this missing 33%. We're not missing the skills. We're missing the advice on these 33%. So, what we are doing, because we're talking about the advice that we're missing, Susan was also talking to managers and mentors. So she was talking to a mentor who was coaching a man and a woman. And he said, I was teaching the woman how to build confidence, and I was teaching the man how to build his business. And I didn't understand that I treat them differently. I had no idea that I was doing it. So it is very unconscious, and it's happening, but nobody knows that it's supposed to be the other way around, that everybody is supposed to learn about this missing 33%. And it's important for directors and for boards when they see that their boards are not proportional. That should be a red flag. There's something missing there. And it's this missing 33%. Women are not there because they don't have this advice, not because they are incompetent in that. The next one, the next challenge. Have you heard of the term double bind? Double bind is when you feel trapped whatever you do. It's considered to be a gender double bind. So when women speak up, don't speak up, they go unnoticed. When they speak up, they are rejected or they are considered as bossy. So whatever they do, they feel trapped. And that eliminates their options. It traps their potential. It is considered a gender double bind, but the reality is that it's a low power double bind. It's not because they are women. It's because everybody, men and women, they feel that they lack power. They see themselves as powerless, and everybody, they see them as powerless as well. So how do we gain power? First of all, what they do, women usually do less ambitious offers because they feel that they're not very assertive. Men should do that. So what we do in order to gain power, what we do is that we advocate for others. I put myself in somebody else's shoes and I help them promote their offer. And by advocating for others, I find also my voice and I become very assertive. This is how women feel, and that's a way to gain power. So it's not the traditional way of gaining power. Perspective. We have also this ability to gain perspective and to talk from somebody else's side and talking through their own eyes. We are very flexible. We give two options. We don't say this is the truth and this is what we're supposed to do and that's it. We give options. And that's another way that we can gain power because then we have more options. Power is options. Having a lot of options, it means having a lot of power. And also, as we said in the beginning, we are not afraid of asking for advice. And that's another way to gain power because we admit that we want to improve ourselves. We also share our plans and our projects with the people that we share advice with. And that engages them in what we're doing. So this is something that we do like we don't want to get noticed, but when we ask for advice, we get noticed. We share our plans and we share what we want to do next. So power is about expanding your options. And leadership today gives us more options than the traditional leadership. And this is what we're talking about today. Women have, remember when we said in the beginning that there was an article, are women better than men or men better than women? It's not about who's better. We are doing leadership in a different way, not in a better or a worse way. And this is what we're talking about today. The different ways that we are here to lead and the merging of the two different styles of men and women is going to bring growth and is going to speed up the potential of every organization. Just about to finish, so you raise your hand? Yeah, yeah. Shall we do all the questions in the end, or you want to ask something now? Now? Yeah? Okay. You can ask, yeah? Yeah. Yeah, or worse. There's no comparison, yeah. By the results? It's, yeah. it's not that they have better results or not, and we're not talking here that women should take over the world because we're doing things better. This is not the case. And when we're coaching women, we're coaching them together with men, not because we think that they're weaker, but we want to prevent them losing or missing some vital information for their career advancement. This missing 33%. Or that we can merge all these competence. Why should we have half of them in every project? We can have all of them. We can have men and women together. We don't need to have only men, or we don't need to have only women. Both of them, they can do miracles. But what we're talking today is that let's make sure that we don't exclude women. Yep. No, of course, yeah. Yeah, they didn't have a name. Yeah.
The lion's picture. This is not fun to work in an environment like that. When we all have to cover our backs, continuously checking like, is Vassia better than me? You know, is somebody outperforming myself? Does he sell more than she does? This is not, how can we be effective? We continuously feel threatened, we feel, I mean, there's a whole series of studies on this, we have cortisol in our bodies, we feel threatened, we close down, we're no longer as creative, we're no longer as productive. It's just not good for health, but it's also not good for business. But this was the situation, huh? Not just did we compete to the outside world, we competed within each other. And us women for a long time have been competing with each other, huh? Because we don't want her to be better, because there was only ever one space for one woman up there. But that's changing too. This is the future, huh? Where we work together, where we can feel safe at work. When we feel safe at work, we can be creative, we can raise our ideas, we can come up with inventions and solutions that otherwise would not even be possible. So, and that's going to benefit, again, that's going to benefit men and women. And I think men will just as much enjoy that kind of environment. Yes. 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 Well, I'm going to say this here now boldly, right? I'm going to say this here now boldly because Vassia and me went to the Erasmus Summit on business as a force for positive change a couple of months ago. And there they were talking about exactly that, right? Is, this notion of I'm on Wall Street, you go in for a kill, you have to make profit, you have to get as much return on investment in as whatsoever. And there was one person who gave a speech there. They are part of a large crowdfunding company that went on the NASDAQ a few years ago, and they thought, yay, we've conquered America, we've got the shareholders now, we're so rich, yeah, right? But what happened is the whole mission, and that is another trend, that companies become more why-centered. We all look at Apple, they have a vision, they see like, we are the ones for the people, we are something different. they then had to change their whole concept because the shareholder was driving what they had to do in order to maximize short-term return on investment. So it didn't go that well. They lost their shareholders. They went back to funding themselves again with their employers. And his message was, I never go back. And then there was somebody else, the boss from DSM, fantastic speaker as well. And he said, I've now got people, you know, in my shareholder meetings, there will be people who say, like, you should not be doing, they're giving food to developing countries in Africa and in the Middle East. And they have specific food projects that actually produces food on the ground that is healthy for the local people rather than bringing our stuff here from the Netherlands or Switzerland or wherever that they can't even digest, right? So they're now putting factories there. So some shareholders will say, like, why? Why? What's the point of this? Why would you want to spend our money? I'm your shareholder. I want investment. I don't want factories nourishing other people in other countries. And he will stand up these days and say, like, that's what we do. And he feels he has a choice, because if you put the message out there as a company, you will attract a certain shareholder. And then some shareholders will leave, but another set of shareholders will join you. And he believes in the power that his message, and so far it's worked. So I would love, and I would like to say here, this is changing. The short-term kill in future, I think, will be a thing of the past. I hope. Yes. Yeah, and I think it was, you know, but I can't remember his name from DSV. I mean, he was obviously a man, right? And yet he had this feminine, long-term, caring part of him that he just brought into business. And I think that's allowed. The more we are allowing this and seeing it as powerful and as beneficial and as wonderful this strength is, men are allowed to bring that in as well, and it's being applauded. It's no longer the short-term kill, it's the long-term vision, how can we benefit? And like you said, yes, if the more women stereotypically care for, not just for themselves, but for their environment and ultimately the planet. So that it has a ripple effect that is bigger. And I think that's where we're probably going to leave you, because there's people outside, with our closing remarks, because I don't know if you've heard at the Canadian summit, the Dalai Lama famously said in 2011 that the world will be saved by Western women. And he was compelled to say so because he was in the company of some wonderful Western women who've just created these amazing initiatives and projects around the world where they really, really made the difference to the world. I think he didn't mean necessarily Western women only, of course. It was the audience that got him, was these specific women in the room that got him to say that. But what I want to say, and I hope you've learned today, and what our key message is we've never had it better than now. There are so many forces working in our favor. Men had enough of the old leadership styles. They want to work together with us. We can transform this together, and we can, like the Dalai Lama said, we can save the world. So thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions, we can